Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. This episode is brought to you by the membership for candle makers, the Candle Makers Collective. Becoming a member gives you access to fortnightly online group Q&A coaching sessions to support you, monthly online workshops and trainings to help you grow your business, plus frequent expert guest speakers to inspire and teach you. You'll also have access to an ever-growing resource library with templates, guides, planners, and ebooks. But my favorite aspect of the membership is our exclusive Facebook group for accountability, connection, and support. So if you're looking to take your candle business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have a beautiful guest who has actually been on the podcast before. We have the lovely Kylie from Tiny Giraffe Art and Design. And for those playing along, you'll know that on episode 94, which was released back in October last year, that was when Kylie was on the podcast for the first time. And we had such a lovely time together chatting about all the different things that I thought, why not invite her back into the podcast and have another conversation? So Kylie, do you want to introduce yourself for those that may not have listened to the previous episode? Tell us a little bit about your story and who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So, hello, my name is Kylie. I'm the owner and artist behind Tiny Giraffe Art and Design Studio. So, as the name implies, I'm both artist and designer, which is probably quite telling. My background was in landscape architecture, and I worked in a design-related construction field for close to 20 years before I went full-time into my business. So, in Tiny Giraffe, I'm mostly working on custom artworks for people, and they are in the form of murals, wall art prints, and also illustrations for businesses.
I love how you've got such a diverse range of skills that you've been able to create a business out of. And for the candle makers listening, like, we're creatives as well. We just channel our creativity into candles as opposed to the art that you create, Kylie. So
yep.
Even though you're not a candle maker, there's so much that coincides between what different creatives do and what creativity they can bring into the world. So I love that. I love that you've been able to forge your path and figure out what brings you joy and then bring joy to other people through your creativity. But you also have another job, and balancing the demands of now being a wife, because you recently got married, having a business and working in paid employment and, running a household and doing all the things. How do you balance it all?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? So I've been full-time in Tiny Giraffe now for 3 years. So basically full-time art and design for myself, but it hasn't been easy. Like, along the way, I have had slow patches in my business and I've had to go and get paid work. I am lucky in that I have quite a lot of connections from my previous industry. And so I was doing extra freelancing on the side here and there where I needed to support myself financially during those tough times. And I think balancing it all is really hard. There is no easy way about it, I'm afraid, but you do what you need to do to take care of yourself first and foremost, and then keep putting the time into your business in the belief that it will grow, in the belief that it will all fall into place one day.
Yes, having that belief that what you're doing isn't for nothing and that you're going to get to where you want to go. It just takes work. It takes getting up early before the kids get up, or it takes staying up late at night and not watching TV. Like, you've got to fit your business in and around other things. And I love how you mentioned taking care of yourself first, because self-care is usually one of the first things that gets pushed to the side because it doesn't feel like a priority. But it really needs to be prioritized, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, no one else can take care of us the way that we need to take care of ourselves. But to try and find that balance, I think, is so elusive. And one of the previous podcast episodes I had with the beautiful Debbie from Lane 3 Designs had this beautiful analogy that rather than balance, it's more about the tilt. And we sometimes tilt more towards one thing as opposed to the other. And so, in an ideal world, we would tilt towards our business and grow our business as big, as wide, as much as we can, or as much as we want. But sometimes other parts of life take preference. And yeah, it's just this tilt back and forth where we just try and figure it all out and just hope for the best every day.
Yeah, I really love that, the tilt. I haven't heard that before, but I have heard something similar. And it's about, focusing on what needs attention at that time. And that does shift.
Yeah, absolutely. If we try and put all of our energy into one particular part of our life consistently and constantly, yes, that part might grow, that might be successful, but what are we sacrificing elsewhere? Are we maybe not spending as much time with our kids, or are we maybe not spending as much time with our partners and husbands and other family and other friends? And of
Yes.
course, if we've got paid employment as well, we're set to certain times and days where we've got to do that work. So yeah, the tilt is such a nice way to look at it. But I think whenever I ask anyone about how do you find balance or how do you balance the demands of life, everyone's like, I don't know. I'm just winging it. I'm just doing the best I can every day.
I think everybody is, to be honest, because there's so many demands on us from so many different aspects. That's
Yes,
all you can do.
absolutely.
Just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Don't give up. Don't stop.
Don't give up.
Yeah, life is busy. There's so many different things that are happening, but if you've got goals for your business and your life and your journey, you need to keep going and be consistent at it, and then that's how you get to where you want to go.
And actually, that's a good point because the word consistent has long bothered me. And I've realized recently why. And it's because I had so much pressure on myself to be consistent every day. But I've realized the consistency doesn't have to be every day to be consistent. And I was putting way too much pressure on myself to do all the things all the time. And I don't think that that's what consistency means, but I wish I had figured that out a bit sooner, or at least someone had told me, because consistency can mean different things, but it just means continually showing up, and how often and the frequency and the effort is up to you.
Yes, absolutely. I preach that to the candle makers in my candle business coach world, that as much as we would love to show up on socials daily, that can put a lot of pressure on us and can cause us a lot of anxiety and stress. Whereas if you commit to being consistent, say once or twice a week, the rate that you appear on social media will impact how quickly or slowly your business grows. But if you're not able to enjoy it while you're doing it and it is causing you stress, you've got to step back and think, what am I doing this for? It's not working
Yes.
for me. And I think that's really important. Yes, consistency is more about continually showing up rather than I have to
Yes.
do this every single day, otherwise I'm a failure.
Yes, exactly.
Now, we touched on earlier about the word imposter or imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt like that in your business? And tell us what that's been like for you.
Oh my gosh, every day. It doesn't go away. That's one thing I've realized, because I felt like an imposter when I started my business back in 2016. It wasn't a business back then, it was more of a passion project. But I thought, who am I to call myself an artist? I was a designer for so many years, working in companies and design firms. I struggled with the word artist, and I've long since come to terms with, I'm very happy to call myself an artist now, and I'm very proud of it. But I have other imposter syndromes. I think as you grow, they continually show up. So they don't disappear.
Mhm.
They just change, they morph. As you grow, other things come along. So yeah, I would say that I deal with it regularly. I'm just getting better at recognizing it and addressing it and working on it.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm so pleased for you that you're able to recognize it more often and, stamp it out
Yeah.
as opposed to sitting in
Get on
those thoughts.
it.
Yeah, as opposed to sitting
Yeah.
in those thoughts of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I can't do this, I'm just going to go watch TV instead of working on my
Yes.
business, or sitting in a space where you're feeling small or even making yourself small, as opposed to going, hang on, stepping back from your thoughts and thinking, why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking these thoughts? Being more curious about where those
Yeah.
thoughts are coming from. Because if you're not able to zoom in on the thoughts that are impacting your life in a negative way, how are you going to learn? How are you going to grow? That takes practice. It's not easy to do that. It takes maturity. So it
Yes.
does get easier as you get older if you're willing to go on that personal growth journey. But I love how you're moving past the different levels as they come up. And there's a saying that is new level, new devil. And I feel like that's
Oh, that's
applicable.
good.
Yeah, there's a few ways that can be applied, but definitely with imposter syndrome, when you first start your business journey, whether you're a candle maker or an artist or any business, there are so many thoughts that come up, and those thoughts are so strong and can be so powerful that they in itself, before you've even taken any action in your journey, can stop you in your tracks. And
Yes, they can be paralyzing.
absolutely. But if you have goals and dreams that are bigger than your fears, you figure out a way to get through that. And whether that's hiring a coach or speaking with family and friends or seeing a therapist, even whatever you need to do to grow personally through your journey will impact the growth of your business as well, because you can't have one without the other. You cannot grow your business without growing personally. And not everyone knows that when they sign up to have a small business. And it can be a bit of a shock to the system.
That's so true. I sometimes tell people that having a business or running a business, owning a business is the best personal self-development tool you'll ever encounter because it really forces you to look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It puts a magnifying glass on your weaknesses, quote unquote, because they're the things that you need to work on. And it can be really challenging at times when you, and even for myself, like I've felt like an imposter. Even now, we're up to episode 120 something in the like how many episodes have been released, and I still think
Really?
like, yeah, as it wait,
That's
you see,
crazy.
yeah, I know, it's wild. It's yeah, it's crazy to think how much it's grown, but yet you still think, well, who am I to put that label on myself, like this positive label on myself of
Yeah.
being a podcaster or being a creative or, whatever you identify as. But
Yes.
you've got to just almost sometimes tell your thoughts, I'm not listening to you. I'm not acknowledging you. I'm actually going to keep doing what I believe is best for me in my journey. And your mind wants to keep you safe, right? Like it wants to keep you in your comfort zone so that you
Mm.
essentially don't die. That's the whole purpose of whatever we want to survive, right? But putting yourself out on social media or going and starting a new business or, asking someone out on a date, you're not going to die from it. You just got to learn to grow and pivot and to try new things
And try again.
and try again. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about trying the same thing again and again until you get good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have to. I mean, no one starts out perfect. There is no such thing as perfection anyway. But what's that saying? Like you have to be a master, you need to do something for like 15,000 hours or 20,000 hours or something
Yeah.
wild. Like you can't
Yeah.
possibly think that when you first start, okay, well, so we'll relate it to candle makers. When you first make your very first candle, that it's going to be perfect. You are going to get sinkholes, you're going to get wet spots, you're going to get a flame that goes too high, you're going to get curling or mushrooming of the wick. Like there are so many things that can, again, quote unquote, go wrong, but you won't know where you sit in the scale of making the most safest candle you can until you actually start. And then once you've made a few batches, then you start to get better, you get faster, the production gets easier, you begin to troubleshoot. Like there are so many ways that you improve, but you're not going to know you're not going to know what it's like until you actually start. And there are going to be, as you say, Kylie, so many levels of feeling and in different ways of feeling like an imposter. And you've just got to, recognize it and move through it. When you feel the imposter syndrome, does that affect your decision making?
I think it may not affect it as such as that it slows it down because for me, imposter syndrome can be paralyzing in terms of it just stops me from moving forward. And then that just slows down the decision making. And I don't know if you're into human design, but I'm a manifesting generator and I know that I need to make decisions slowly. I get into trouble when I make decisions quickly. So for me, it's not a bad thing, but I really do need to work through the feelings before I can take action and make a decision, usually. Yeah.
And how do you work through the feelings? Like, do you journal? Do you speak to family and friends? How do you process it?
Yes, I journal a lot and sometimes not even journaling in the like the typical sense of writing. I do have a journal where I write, but I also record videos to myself where I'll just be it's almost like a therapy session with myself where I'll be recording how I'm feeling because sometimes you can't get the words out quick enough onto the page or it's tiring and if you don't have a journal prompt sometimes you don't know where to start, but if you just start talking to yourself, I like to go on a big walk usually. Like I'll go on a big walk. usually my favorite spot, which is a Seven Hills bushland close to where I live, and surrounded by the beautiful eucalypts and the crunch of the gravel underneath. I'm listening to my senses. I'm somewhere different, take myself out of the same space that I was in where I was feeling that way. And I just work through talking to myself about, whether it's internally or out loud, about what's happening and why I'm feeling that way. And usually by the time I get home, even if I haven't made a decision, I feel a lot better just getting it all out. It's the same as talking to a friend or a family member, I think. It's pretty much the same practice, but at least with myself, I'm not having anyone else's opinion into it, or someone else's lens, which can be both helpful or harmful depending on their best interests for you and them trying to keep you safe. So yeah, I think it's a personal thing, working through the feelings, but that's what helps me.
I love that so much. What a beautiful way to honor yourself, honor your self-care, and take care of your mental and physical health at the same time. By doing that, both the journaling and going for a beautiful walk, you have such clarity afterwards. And I feel like when you've got clarity, then you can make better decisions. You can let the fresh thoughts in and move ahead, knowing that you've kind of looked at all the options and assessed the situation, and then you can move forward, which is beautiful. I love that.
And sometimes if I know it's imposter syndrome flaring its head, just purely around my creativity or, being good at what I do, I actually also have another tool that I use, and I call it an evidence journal. And anytime someone says something nice to me, I either write it down, or if they've sent it in an email, I'll screenshot it. If they've sent it in a text message, I'll save the text message, or basically just capturing all of that feedback that I've had from friends, family, clients, customers. I put that into a little notes I use Evernote, actually, Evernote app, and I just save all of the pictures in there. So when I'm feeling a little bit down, and it's not necessarily about something in particular, but I know that I'm feeling a bit flat, or I'm struggling with feeling like I'm good at what I do, or that I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing, I'll go through that first as a little pick-me-up.
That's amazing. What a nice way to pick yourself up and to kind of put yourself in a place where you're like, I'm actually doing pretty good in the world. Like I'm making an impact.
Yeah.
I'm creating and sharing positivity with those around me. And this is truth. This is what
Yes.
people have said, or this is how they feel. And this is a reflection of the work that I'm doing and the impact that I'm having. And that's so powerful. I love that so much.
Yes, start an evidence journal.
Yeah, definitely. For everyone that's listening to the podcast, pause it, go get a journal, and then make sure you come back to the podcast as
I
well.
know some people stick them out, they'll print them out and stick them in a book, but I'm trying to be more digitally, I'm trying to keep it on my phone because that's with me at all times. So
Yes, yes. And the beauty of Evernote and other apps like that is that you can access them on your computer as well. So if you've
yes,
got something like if you've read an email on the computer or looking at a photo on the computer, you can pop it in the app. It doesn't have to be on your phone. But anyway, that's digressing. Are you ready for personalised support for your candle making journey? Hi there, my friend. I'm Kirsty Allen, the Candle Business Coach, and I help candle makers like you with mindset and business strategy, as well as troubleshooting your candle making struggles. With my private coaching, we'll work together to set and achieve your goals. And whether you need a single session for clarity or a series of sessions for ongoing support, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Check out the show notes for details of my private coaching sessions and packages, and let's achieve your goals one candle at a time. If we can turn the conversation towards feelings of guilt, when it comes to having a business, like your business baby that you're proud of, that you want to grow and be as successful as possible, but also needing to work outside of the business, how do you manage the guilt of maybe I haven't yet reached my goals and I have to work in this other job, or I have to do freelance work and I really want to work in the business, but I need to get money coming in consistently. Like, how do you feel guilt about that? And if so, how does that impact?
I don't know if it's guilt that comes up for me first. Last year when I had to take on some freelance work, when I was quiet in my business, the first feeling that I felt was shame, because I felt like I was a failure and that my business wasn't successful, and that, I wasn't getting enough clients to make it sustainable. And I was just embarrassed and ashamed. But I quickly realized that those were my own stories and feelings I was putting on myself. They weren't other people's. Everybody that I spoke to about it said that they were really proud of me for everything that I'd achieved so far. And it was just a matter of time till the next, the next client came along, or the next project came along, or the next sale came along. So that's definitely the first feeling that I felt. And I kind of had to, it took me a while to deal with those feelings. And I just had to show up to this job that I wasn't particularly passionate about, but that I knew was going to help me financially. And I think obviously taking that financial pressure off was enough to help remind me that I'm doing this for me. Like, this was a great decision to take care of me. And I come first before my business. I come first before anybody else, only so that I can give to everybody else. I can't give to anyone or to anything if I'm not taking care of myself. So once I realized that it was a decision to take care of me, I felt proud of myself for making those changes and taking that action to make life a bit easier and smoother for me. But yes, I do struggle with guilt as well. When I was sitting at that job, I was feeling guilty that I wasn't working on my business and that I was spending time building somebody else's business. I felt guilt that I wasn't progressing as fast as I wanted. I felt guilty that I was away from home and not taking care of things at home as much as I used to, especially because, when you work from home, running your own business, you can sort of take care of home life a bit easier. So yeah, guilt is definitely there. I think there's quite a lot of feelings that can come up with this situation. And it just is a matter of, again, working through those feelings, acknowledging them, letting them pass, because they will pass. Everything is temporary, and acknowledging the hard work that you've done to keep going and to be at the point that you are, because you are further ahead than where you started.
And probably where you think as well. You've made
Yes.
more impact than you give yourself credit for. And that's where the evidence journal can come into
Yes.
come
Yeah.
into play.
Yep.
I myself feel the same. Like, I work in paid employment. I work 4 days a week outside of the business. And
Yep.
when people hear that for the first time, they're like, what? We didn't realize. We thought you were, just doing the candle business, coach business.
Because you do it so well.
Oh, thank you. I have a lot of late nights, let's be honest. But when when the reactions are surprised, it makes me think, oh, maybe I should talk about that more and let people know I didn't just suddenly become the candle business coach and there's nothing else around me that is scaffolding the growth of this business. Because
Yeah.
if I wasn't working in paid employment, I wouldn't be able to do this business. Actually, that's not entirely true. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this business with the passion that I have for it, because I'm wanting to do this full time till the end of time, because I love it so much and I'm obsessed with it.
Mm.
But it's not sustainable at the moment to just be doing this as opposed to also working part-time. So I'm lucky that I'm not working full-time and running my business. There are many candle makers I speak to that are working full-time hours and running their candle business and trying to get that off the ground and doing markets on the weekend, and they've got 7 days of
Yeah, it's a
activities, and
7 day a week. It's a full time, and
it's
then another full
full time.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I think there needs to be more transparency between what else is in your life rather
Mm.
than just showing one perspective. And I know
Mm.
with social media, it's a highlight reel and people just want to put their best foot forward. But what's ironic is that when you show more about your journey, what's going on in your world, and you don't have to show everything about your life. There are absolutely things that should be kept private. But when you're able to show that you're more well-rounded than just this one aspect, people can connect in more with you. And that's
Yes.
what builds that know, like, and trust. That's what builds up the community and the connection, and then will most likely end in conversion of a sale. So
Yep.
it's funny that we sometimes suppress parts of our life to the public eye or to others because we're not sure how it'll be perceived. And
Mm.
when we do have feelings of guilt or shame or feeling ashamed that we haven't yet reached our goals and we're not as far along as we thought we would be or that we would like to be, again, these are all thoughts, well, that I'm hoping these are only internal thoughts and that there's no external people that, like, external thoughts or external pressures that are impacting that. But it's usually just what we think and what we feel. And when
Yes.
we, again, zoom out and think about, hang on, has
The
anyone
big
actually
picture.
said to me, you should be further along? Or
Yeah.
has anyone said to me that Oh, I can't believe you're working paid employment as well. It's like no one says that. No one ahead in the journey, like let's just say no one ahead in their candle making journey is going to look back and criticize you. It's usually the people that don't have as much success or that aren't as far along that will be more likely to pull you down and pull you back. And it's not intentional most of the time. It's just people want to keep you where you are because they know where you are in your box. They
That's what they
know
know.
that's what they know. That's what they're comfortable with. And when you
Yeah.
begin to grow and change and evolve, that can be scary for other people. And that's where the external thoughts can come into it. But
Makes me
you've,
think of that quote, what someone thinks of me is none of my business.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And if there are people that are verbally criticizing your journey, you've got to think about, well, you've got to think about who that person is in your life.
Yes. And
Are
what's
they important enough to have a conversation to help rectify that? Or is it someone that perhaps isn't necessarily going to be on your journey for the long term? My brother actually sent me a short YouTube clip the other day, and it was about a person. They were given like a sermon or a speech, and basically saying that you're a rocket, and when you blast off into space, like on your journey, there are boosters. So if you think about an actual rocket, there are boosters that are
oh, I
attached
like
to the
that.
rocket,
Yeah.
and they fall off the higher you go on your trajectory. And if you kind of think about, there are people that will be on your journey for a little while. They're not going to necessarily be part of the rocket. They might just be the boosters that are scaffolding you and helping you get to the next level, but they
Yeah.
won't necessarily get you to the pinnacle. So it's so important to, I know I've taken a bit of a sidetrack, but I just thought,
No, that's so valuable to
this
think
is what
about.
feels like. I feel like there's going to be someone out there that needs to hear this, is that you need to be very protective of who you have around you when you've got big goals and dreams, or even little goals and dreams, because
Any goals and
any
dreams.
goals and dreams, yes,
Yes.
I might edit that part out. It's so important to protect your energy and your space and your mental clarity and your, you've got to take care of you. And to do that, you need to surround yourself with supportive people. So,
Yes.
yeah, that's all I want to say on that.
I love that. And the other thing I would add to that is what lens are those people looking through to make those comments or judgments or anything? There's a great, maybe it's not a quote, but there's a great story about that with Brene Brown talking about those who are in the arena. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
And those who are watching from the grandstand. And you know, they might be shouting at you, but you don't have to listen to them. They're not in the arena with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I think
It's
there's a lot of power in that.
absolutely. And I think with the beauty of social media and connecting with other candle makers is that 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, they're cheering for you because they know what you're going through and they want to see you succeed and they're happy for you. Whereas the people that don't have businesses, like this could be family or friends, they have no idea what you're actually going through. And as you say, you don't have to listen to those people.
Yes, and that's a good point. That's why I found it very lonely going full time into my business in the beginning because I didn't have all of my closest friends are all in corporate. They're all in, you know, higher level roles, working up the career ladder in their corporate lives. And, you know, running a business is a completely different thing. I felt so much that people couldn't relate to me and I couldn't relate to them anymore. So if you're in that early stage of full time as well, that can be a very lonely, challenging space with imposter syndrome and wondering where your people are. So that, yeah, the fact that you are curating this beautiful candle maker community is invaluable.
Thank you. That's so nice it's so nice to hear and so nice to be to say. I get messages weekly, sometimes daily, from candle makers all over the world that are just finding the podcast, or they just joined the Facebook group, or they just joined the membership. And everyone's on different levels of their journey. Some are literally, I've just bought my candle making kit. I haven't made a candle. I'm
Excellent.
ready to do it. And then you'll have people that have been doing it for 10 plus years and they need a bit of guidance and support. So there's everyone along the spectrum. But the main thing is that they tell me is that they feel less alone. They feel like, oh, finally someone understands what I'm going through and I can connect with. And that's just such a beautiful reminder for me in this podcast and for my journey as the candle business coach, is that you never know what impact you're having unless someone actually tells you. But
Yeah.
even if they don't, you just don't know how far the ripple effect will go when
Yeah.
you're living in your alignment and doing
Yes.
what you believe is true and
And
doing what
showing up in the world. That's
yeah,
right.
it's showing up. So, yes, you might think on one hand, I'm just making candles. I just needed a bit of extra money, to take a holiday or to buy my kids, a nicer birthday present or something. But when you are living or working towards living towards what you really want out of life,
Yeah.
the impact you can have is just wild. So don't
Yeah.
give up, candle
Don't give
makers.
up.
Don't stop.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, community is everything.
Yeah. So I'm curious about when imposter syndrome or feeling guilt become overwhelming and you push to the side, you go for your walk, you come back. How do you stay motivated and focused on your goals?
That's a good question. I think it changes. So as my business, for me personally, as my business has grown, I've set new goals for myself. So it's important to do little reviews, whether that's maybe quarterly or yearly. It doesn't really matter so long as you're thinking and reflecting on where it is you want to go. Because if you have a direction, it's much easier to work towards. And when I went full time into my business, I basically took on anything and everything, and I didn't have a goal, which was probably probably the worst thing to do. I mean, I took the leap out of my corporate job and I didn't have any clients. I did have past clients, and I knew that I was doing creating these beautiful artworks for people, and I kind of just said yes to anything that shows up. But now I'm much more strategic about what I want to be doing, how I can best use my time, what is the impact that I want to make, where do I want to see my art in the world, or for your candle makers, where would they love to see their candles? Is there a goal to be at a market or in a store or selling online? I mean, there's so many possibilities, and there's no right or wrong answer so long as it feels, like you said, it feels good to you. If it's aligned to what you want, then that's a goal worth chasing. And once you've got the goal, I feel like you can break that down into little parts. But in terms of staying motivated, I just like to sort of chip away at things. So I'll try to set like a date in the future because I'm a bit deadline driven. It must be all those years of being in corporate. I love to set like a timeline for when I would like to have things done by. And then I chip away at them. For example, right now I am creating a Melbourne artwork. So a lot of my artworks are city maps, and I'm creating an artwork for Melbourne, and I'd really love to have that ready by September so that I can promote it in time for Christmas and give it plenty of lead time, because a lot of my maps also take a long time to they take a long time to draw. So once I set about a date, then I'm working backwards and just making sure that I'm working towards it. But another goal of mine, for example, right now is to support people like your candle makers. I really want to work with businesses to create bespoke illustrations and patterns that people can purchase for their brands, for their products. So I'm currently creating a pattern library and an illustration library of beautiful things that people can purchase to put on their packaging or their labels or basically any product. And so my goal is next year, I think, for that. It keeps getting pushed out, and I'm okay with that. Like it was meant to launch this year, and I had more work, more custom artwork projects come in than I expected that were really big ones. And so I kind of follow what brings me joy as well. So I have these goals, and then I also work towards putting things in there for me that make me feel good. And I think that's a nice balance, because if you're constantly only doing things what you think other people want, then what's the point of being in business, right? I mean, if you wanted to say you wanted to launch a special candle range by a certain time, or you wanted to release a signature scent or come up or do an artist collaboration or do something really wild with your packaging or some kind of special event, perhaps you wanted to have your candles at an event. I feel like it's just about chasing the things that bring you joy as well, that support your end vision.
I love that so, so much. I think you've spoken so beautifully about how to stay motivated and chipping away at your goals and having a deadline. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is that you're following the joy. You're following what makes you happy and brings you, enjoyment. And that's what will help avoid burnout and will help avoid feeling like an imposter or feeling guilt or all of those things we spoke about. When you're, just head down and you're following what brings you joy and it and that radiates out to every other part of your life, you enjoy the whole process so much more. And you realize, this is why I'm doing this. It's because I
Yeah.
enjoy it and it brings me all the good feelings.
Yes, like you can work towards a vision, but also make sure that it lights you up, I think. Because one thing that I've realized actually in creating things for myself, when I put something out there that I've dreamt of, that I've wanted to see in the world, that I've imagined or dreamt about, and I've created it, and I've followed the bliss and spent and had fun creating it. When I put it out into the world, people react so well to it. Like it's almost like, I would say, magic in a way. Like when you create something that has got this incredible energy behind it, it's very attractive to people, and you'll be surprised at the things that come out of it. I've put artworks out before that I've thought, oh, this isn't my usual thing, and I don't know what people will think about this. And you'll be surprised. So many people will contact me and say, this is fabulous. And it sparks the conversation for something new, or a new project, or a new opportunity. So yeah, definitely follow those. It's almost like you followed the dream to go into your business. Now you have to keep following the ideas and the dreams within the business.
Yes, following the butterflies and following what makes you, what brings a smile to your face when you think about it, when you
Yeah.
can't stop thinking about it, when you think about it when you go to bed at night, and it's the first thing when you think of when you wake up. It's those things that make the process so much fun, as opposed to, oh, I've got to do this tomorrow, or I've got to do that. Like, you've got to pay attention to those signs. If there's something in your business that doesn't light you up, can you eliminate it? Can you outsource it? Can you delegate it? Can you take it off your plate so that you can focus on the fun stuff? Because what you find fun and what you don't find fun can be the opposite for someone else. So
Yeah.
if there are tasks in your business that you can outsource, to friends, family, or a virtual assistant, or to someone like a staff member or something, you've got to think about that as well. You've got to be so protective and strategic about your time and energy. And yeah, follow your bliss and follow what lights you up, I think is a beautiful way to end today's podcast episode, because that's what we're doing this for, right? We want to enjoy our life's journey. We want to feel like we're here for a reason, that we've got a higher purpose. And when you're living in that spark, it's just amazing. And it's just like magic.
And one other thing that I just thought of is when you are working for somebody else and you're you're working in your other job, it allows you that flexibility and that freedom to chase those things that really light you up, because you aren't financially, when you're financially supported through something else, it gives you full flexibility and full freedom to chase the things that you're really excited about, and it takes the pressure off. So yeah, definitely, I think that's another pro to remembering. If you're working with for someone else and still growing your business, that's the flip side. That's the beauty to it. So definitely use it for all it's worth.
Comes down to perspective, doesn't
it? Yeah.
Beautiful, Kylie. Thank you so much for being on the podcast again. It has been a pure joy and absolutely amazing chatting with you about imposter syndrome and guilt and working in paid employment, and just going on these beautiful tangents that we went on today. For the listeners that would like to connect in with you, or if they want to work with you, where can we find you online?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. I love chatting to you. I think our conversations are so special. Yes, people can find me over on Instagram, tinygiraffe.co. And my website is exactly the same, tinygiraffe.co. So wherever you want to shoot me an email or send me a DM on Instagram, I would love that. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you once again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.